everyone. Ever think about the link between like obesity and autoimmune diseases?
It's a question we get a lot, actually, especially from providers and residents.
Yeah, makes sense. And we've got this piece from Science from 2023 called The Link Between Obesity and Autoimmunity.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
And it really gets into, how they're connected.
More than just correlation, right?
Right, exactly. Like there's some actual immunology stuff happening.
For sure.
So let's get into it. The article talks about adipose tissue.
Okay, yeah.
And it's interesting because we always think of fat as just like storage.
Right, just sitting there.
But it's more than that, right?
Oh, way more. Adipose tissue is actually key for immune regulation.
Really?
Yeah, it releases these signaling molecules, adipocytokines. Adipocytokines. They basically tell the immune system what to do.
Like little messengers?
Exactly. Ramp up, calm down,
So when someone has obesity, what happens to those messages? Do they get all messed up?
Kind of, yeah. Overnutrition basically leads to this state of chronic low-grade inflammation. So the immune system's always on edge.
Oh, I see.
And that, over time, can make autoimmune diseases more likely.
So that's the link.
One of the links, yeah.
And they specifically mentioned like type 1 diabetes and MS, right?
Right. Those are some big ones. But there's also research on rheumatoid arthritis, IBD.
Wow.
Even skin stuff like psoriasis.
Yeah.
So for providers, managing obesity is huge for these patients.
Makes a big difference.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, so we've got this chronic inflammation thing going on.
Right.
But the article also mentioned this mTOR.
Ah, yes, mTOR.
Which sounds, honestly, pretty complicated.
It is complex but important. Think of it like the control center for how our cells use nutrients, energy.
Okay.
And in obesity, there's so much excess, right?
Yeah.
So mTOR in immune cells is just stuck on.
Like a switch that's flipped.
Exactly, stuck on. And that messes things up.
How so?
Well, it stops the production of Tregs.
Tregs.
Those
are the ones that keep the immune system in check.
Precisely. They prevent it from attacking, your own body.
So obesity weakens that system.
Essentially, yeah. Less of those brakes on the immune response.
Oh, that's no good.
Definitely not. And to make it worse, it also boosts inflammatory T cells at the same time.
So it's like taking your foot off the brake, A&D hitting the gas.
Perfect analogy. Not a good combo.
So we've got overnutrition, inflammation, immune cells all out of whack. Anything we could do about this? Like, practically, for providers?
Well, that's where it gets interesting, and we'll get into that more after this. So the research is pointing to this idea of pseudo-starvation.
Pseudo-starvation, that sounds a little intense.
It does, right. But it's more about mimicking the effects of fasting, like metabolically.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, you can do things like calorie restriction, intermittent fasting. Even some medications can have similar effects.
But were we saying, like, prescribe fasting to patients?
Not exactly prescribe, but incorporate the concept. Like, talk about time-restricted feeding.
Okay, so like eating only within a certain window.
Right, or maybe incorporating some calorie restriction periods.
We're tricking the body into thinking it's fasting.
In a way, yeah. And that can help bring mTOR back down, reset things.
Give the immune system a breather.
Exactly. And there's actually some evidence this can help with autoimmune activity.
Really? What kind of evidence?
There are studies, both in animals and humans, showing that, like, calorie restriction and intermittent fasting, they can reduce inflammation, improve outcomes in things like MS, rheumatoid arthritis.
Interesting. Are there specific studies that, providers should look at?
Yeah, you could check out Dr. Longo's work. He's done a lot with fasting mimicking diets.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. So it's not just about, like, overall calories.
Right. It's also about specific nutrients and how they affect immune tolerance.
So, like, what you eat matters. Not just how much.
Exactly. Some fatty acids, like omega-3s, they have anti-inflammatory effects.
So it's about giving patients really specific advice, not just lose weight.
Exactly. That's where dietitians come in. They can really personalize plans.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, the article also mentioned some medications.
Oh, right. The meds. So there are a few that show promise here. Metformin, for example.
Metformin, that's for diabetes, right?
Yep, type 2. But it works by activating AMPK, which indirectly inhibits mTOR.
So it's like hitting that mTOR switch from a different angle.
You got it. And because it's already widely used, we know it's relatively safe.
Good point.
And studies have shown it can reduce inflammation in the nervous system, at least in mice with MS.
Wow, that's promising. Any other meds like that?
Pioglitazone is another one. Also for diabetes, it works on PPAR gamma,
Okay.
which can improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation. even boost Tregs in MS patients.
So we're talking about using existing drugs for a whole new purpose.
Essentially repurposing them, which is exciting, but we still need more research, you know?
Of course, yeah. So much to learn still.
Totally. Like, how do these things affect immune tolerance long term? How do we personalize them?
Big questions.
Huge. And how to actually incorporate them into practice. That's key for providers.
Yeah, making it work for real patients. So what's the main takeaway for providers listening?
I'd say remember that obesity and autoimmunity, it's complex. It's not just weight loss.
Right, there's all this immune stuff happening underneath.
Exactly. So we need a holistic approach. Talk to patients about lifestyle.
Diet, exercise, all that.
Right. And emphasize those things we talked about. Calorie restriction, maybe intermittent fasting.
Not just for weight, but for their immune system.
Exactly. And keep in mind, this research is still new. We're learning more all the time.
So exciting to see where it goes.
Absolutely. So much potential to help people.
It really changes how we think about these conditions, you know, like back in med school.
Oh, tell me about it.
Obesity, autoimmunity, they're totally separate things.
Silos. Right.
Exactly. Now it's like, whoa, they're connected in this deep way.
Totally. It's all about systems thinking now. Everything's talking to each other.
And for providers, that means we have to change how we treat.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that wraps up our look at obesity and autoimmunity.
Based on that science article, of course.
Right. The link between obesity and autoimmunity. Hope everyone found it helpful.
Lots to think about clinically, that's for sure.
Definitely. Let us know what you thought, how you're going to use this in your practice.
Always love hearing from you guys.
Leave a comment below. Disclaimer and bibliography in the description.